Good morning, Twitch. And I think we're up and running on the stream now. So I'm just doing a few little bits of last minute prep for my How to Host a Dungeon game, cutting out some new versions of the monster cards, getting things ready. That goes up there. And we're about ready to begin. So, if you don't know what's going on here, my name is Tony Dowler. I'm an artist and game designer in Seattle. I'm working on a game called How to Host a Dungeon. It's a game where you create and evolve and see the history of a dungeon from its birth up till it being ready for adventurers and beyond. And today I'm going to do a play test of the new version. I haven't streamed in a few months just because life's been busy. Streaming is, mentally hard, requires time and setup, but I'm back and I'm hopefully going to do a few games getting ready for the next release because this game is pretty close to being a solid first draft. Anyway, so maybe if I can show a little bit of what has changed since the last time I streamed really quick. So we've got some new monsters and some new graphics, some new rules. We've got villains and a little bit of fun here. I'm going to take my camera. Hopefully this won't be too disorienting. I got an awesome new speaker, which I needed to pick up for microphone, which I needed to pick up for Go Play Northwest, and now I'm going to use for streaming. Got my new tray of How to Host a Dungeon tools, including all my dice, my tokens, my treasures, etc. Over here I've set up a new setup for my pens so they don't get so disorganized. I got my big fat Faber-Castell pens, a whole slew of super cheap gel pens. That was like 20 bucks for all of those, and these pens are cheap but amazing. And then my Copics and miscellaneous. So now that I've got that all together, let's see if we can begin. Let me find my rules here. In my game design clipboard. Yeah, this follows me everywhere that I go. You may hear some background noise. There's some people in our yard doing some construction work today. So as you can see, I've been doing some editing and adjusting to the rules. This is the life of a game designer, to be forever surrounded by endless sheets of paper. But now let's get to the important piece of paper today, which is our dungeon. So, let's jump right in. So, in How to Host a Dungeon, we're creating a massive mega dungeon from the beginning of time. And we start by laying out our world. So, we're just going to grab a pen. That's the surface of our world. I'm making it really simple, but you could have mountains, oceans, do it any way you want, but I'm just going to go really straightforward. And then we're going to divide this area down here into several regions called strata. So I think today we're going to do just flat strata, because I haven't played How to Host a Dungeon in a while, and I kind of want to get back into the swing with something a little basic. Let's see, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's make it 8. An even 8. And so now we're going to roll some dice to find out what is in these places that monsters and civilizations can later interact with. The first thing we're going to have is a nexus. Every game has a nexus. The nexus is something unique and strange. So we're going to put the nexus in one of these areas. Let's number these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. region number 6. And then let's roll to see what's in that. Number 7, a Cyclopean complex. This network of massive chambers and corridors were left by forces unknown. If you got this result by rolling on the caves table, which we did not, roll again to see what's in there. So let's draw some caves. Let's use brown for our chambers. So I'm just going to make some interconnected chambers. This is, a vast cave complex left here by an unknown civilization, perhaps built by the gods of this world, or, maybe in the magical rules of this universe, this kind of cave just happens naturally. And then I'm going to draw some pillars and other features just to make this a little more interesting. And I'm hoping that you can actually see these on the screen. A great staircase with steps, much too large for most humanoids. A pillared hall. And so on. How to Host a Dungeon is all about imagining and just making stuff up as you go, rolling some dice, finding out what's there, and then riffing on that in whatever way your imagination wants. So now we're going to do the features, which is we find out what's in the rest of these areas. So we'll start with layer number 2. We're going to do the surface last because it has a slightly different set of rules. And we just take a die and we roll it to find out what's in there. And the result is a 5, which is magma near the surface. And we roll a d10 to find out that it is a large cave or underground lake. Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at the water table. On magma, it's a large cavern containing 1 to 4 distinct magma lakes, each about the size of one room. So we get 3 lakes. I'm going to make a change to these rules. I think that should be 1d4 plus 1, because it's more interesting if you have at least 2 lakes. Take our brown, and I guess we're just going to have a massive cave kind of just under the surface here, waiting to be discovered. In this, we're going to have 3. It was 3, right? 3 lakes of magma. We use the red Copic for those. Maybe give them a little red outline to define them a little better. When we start getting into some of the details of these areas, we'll zoom in a little so you can see them a bit better and concentrate on one area of the map. For now, I'm just going to start zoomed way out. Level 3 is more magma. Interesting, huh? One cavern full of magma with a magma channel leading down and off the bottom of the page. Okay, so that's interesting. How are we going to interpret that? So we've got another massive chamber. I'm thinking maybe this world was largely formed by magma flowing, which left behind some remnants. Let's use a little orange, and how about, yeah, we'll put a little yellow in there too, just to, I like to use lots of color, draw lots of stuff, provide lots of detail, but you can totally just play this game just drawing circles and squares and lines. So I guess there's a magma channel coming down. Let's, I'm just going to say these pillars are magma pipes. can label stuff too if you have any, if you're concerned you'll forget what it is, or you just want to give it a cool name. Yeah, maybe these mysterious workings were left by whatever engineers created this world. Angels? Demons? Automata? I don't know. Let's see how the world evolves and maybe we'll come up with a better theory. Alright, so layer 4 contains caves. And with a roll of 3, 1d4 plus 1 small caves connected by a single tunnel. So 4 caves with a tunnel connecting them. Let's do one with those ceiling things, stalagmites, stalactites. I can never remember which of those it is. Another room. There. Limestone caves below a lava chamber. That seems like some very unlikely geology to me. Next layer is water. A large cavern with an underground lake in it. A little perspective. There's your lake. A little light blue. Yeah, that one's almost done. Place that pen. Ancient lake. All right. This layer already has something in it, so now we're going down to layer number 7. And what we get here is gems. A huge gem, about 4 beads in size. In How to Host a Dungeon, we often measure things in beads, and beads just means these beads, I used colored ones, which you use in the game to mark where creatures live. They represent population. So whatever size those are, a room is just a little bit bigger. So we're going to make a gem that's pretty huge. Let's use green. I'm going to theorize that this gem is actually what's left of the magical power source that mysterious entities used when they built this world. We'll make it shiny. I have been accused of inventing this game just so I didn't have to take up scrapbooking. But as you can see, I do love to play around with art supplies. And our final level has ore. A vein ore running the full length in the longest direction. Okay, so let's see. Do I have a silver here I can use for this? I think I have a silver Sharpie around about somewhere. I'm actually going to dig around in this bag. There's a gold pen. So this ore vein is something that, you know, dwarves may come and mine this. Monsters may fight over the treasure. That's what we will find out when we play the game. All right, so that's the primordial game. That's where we lay out the foundation for our game of how to host a dungeon. It's that simple. Now, we need a civilization. So, in the Age of Civilization, some race of creatures comes here and begins to make this world their home. And we're going to start with dwarves because they're just kind of the classic. They were the first civilization I made, and I still have a soft spot for them. Let's try zooming in a little bit and see what we can do. So dwarves like to start their civilization in a location that has access to ore for them to mine. So let's start down here on this ore vein. So these rules, they tell you how to start your civilization, and what they do is they evolve and how they come to a bitter end. So the dwarves start out with a couple of beads that represents their dwarven population. We're going to use purple for dwarven rooms. So the dwarves mined into this region. They created some rooms to live in. Let's see, they start with some treasures, so we'll make them some treasure vaults. So you may be hearing right now that my furnace just turned on and it's making a lot of noise. I don't know how bad this is on stream, but just to make sure it doesn't disturb the stream, I'm going to go turn that off. So I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully that background noise should shut down in a minute or two. Alright, so let's keep going with the dwarves. So the dwarves have a life cycle, which is a series of steps that they follow each turn in the game. And the first thing that they do is they expand their population. Basically, they invite their dwarven relatives to come live with them, because there's treasure here to be mined. A rich land for dwarves to live in. Then they mine, so let's just dig a mine shaft down here and mine out some of that gold. Gold means treasures, so their treasure increases. And that's the basic gist of the Dwarven Age. But each turn they build something. So, based on how much dwarven population they have, there are different things that they are allowed to build. So, with a population of 3, we're just going to build a dwarven workshop. That's a pretty straightforward thing that dwarves would want. Let's come up here and build it among the ancient Cyclopean ruins. I don't know if this looks like a workshop to anyone but me, But there's your workshop. Let's label it. And if anyone watching this feels like coming up with a name for our Dwarven city, post it in the chat, and we'll name our city that as well. And now we continue. So the population expands. The mines are increased. The treasure is found. Now later, monsters may move in here after the dwarves have moved on. That's the whole idea of evolving the dungeon over time. So with a population of 4, we can build a number of things. Let's build a trophy hall. So atop this arch construction here, the dwarves put a great trophy to their awesome dwarven city. A trophy is what we call a unique treasure. So I'm going to grab a little token to represent that. And I'm going to grab a paint pen to write on it what it is. How much of my life, I wonder, do I spend digging for pens? The orb of dwarven kind. Perfect. And now we'll continue on. Now the dwarves could also mine out these gems, but I think I'm going to stick with gold. Expand the mines. More treasure. A new construction. At population 5, the dwarves can build a power plant or a smelter. These give them different options on the things they can build afterwards. I'm going to go for a smelter. So I think if the dwarves had access to these lava channels, if they were a little closer, I would actually probably build the smelter there, just because it sort of makes sense. But since they don't, I'll just make a big furnace-y looking thing here. The smelter. And we will continue. Let's put some dwarf rooms up here. There's room. More dwarves. More mining. More treasures. Now, at population 6, we can build the Dwarven City or the Great Gates of Dwarf. Let's do something interesting. So at this stage in their evolution, I think the dwarves discover that this world has a surface. As I imagine it, the dwarves evolved deep underground, unaware that there were unroofed regions in the world. But in their explorations, they heard legends of the surface. They built this immense spiral staircase to find out, and once they got to the surface, they decided, we don't like the looks of this. So here is a massive defensive gate to protect the dwarven lands. Let's put a couple of dwarf statues there. If you don't see it, that's fine. These don't have to look like dwarves to anyone but me. And then mark it with a little chevron to show that it is a fortification. In How to Host a Dungeon, fortifications give the creatures that inhabit them a defensive bonus. So if there were other monsters for these dwarves to interact with, they would have a defensive bonus against them using those gates. Maybe later that will become an important thing. Now I'm going to slide this back so we can go back to our dwarven mines. I'm playing this on a really big piece of paper right now, just for the stream, but you can also play it on a normal size piece of paper and not need so much space. The dwarves are running out of room to store their treasures. Maybe we'll start making some new vaults coming off of this spiral staircase. So our next construction is going to be, let's see, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 population. Let's continue this industrial theme and build a foundry. Place for the dwarves to process all this ore that they're smelting, turn it into useful tools. Foundry. More treasure. Hey Joshua, how's it going? Thank you for coming and watching the stream. Do you have a name for our dwarven city? Alright, so now at population 8, we can build an agora or an aqueduct. Well, we just discovered this underground lake, so let's build an aqueduct. I'm going to build there's like this pipe and then this pump system which distributes hot and cold running water to all the dwarven homes. Let's draw. This guy's got a hot tub. Here we've got a shower. That's totally a shower if you can't tell. The kitchen sink. These dwarves are now living in style. Flarbsville. Done. The great dwarven city of Flarbsville. Awesome. I am doing pretty good. This has been a busy, busy fall, but finally I'm getting some time to draw pictures, work on how to host a dungeon, and do some streams, so I am happy. All right. More dwarven houses, I think. We're going to do a little dwarven summer house on the edge of the lake. We expand on the mines. We gather more treasures. Now these dwarves have lots of material to mine, but it can happen that dwarves run out of material to mine, which will change the things that they build and how their civilization advances. So at 9, we can build the Doom Weapon or an Imperial Throne Room. Well, I think these dwarves are they're a little paranoid because of discovering the surface and being kind of freaked out about it. So I think they're going to build a Doom Weapon. And I think they're going to build it here next to this spiral staircase leading to the surface. I don't know what this doom weapon is going to look like, but here, let's... make it look like that. Doom. The Doom weapon is also a legendary treasure, so let's get a little token to mark it. All right, Doom on there, just so I can remember what that is. You can use little slips of paper for this. You don't have to write anything on it at all. You can just use like a, sometimes I use these little gold coin-shaped things that I found at the craft store. Whatever works. All right. So these dwarves do not know that their civilization is actually nearing an end, because when the dwarven population hits 10, it triggers the end of their civilization. So these dwarves, going about their business, mining out more ore, gathering more treasure, do not know this is the last treasure they shall ever mine. So, at level 10, the dwarf war, or they delve too deep, is how their civilization ends. I'm going to say they delve too deep. Their explorations to the surface have made them wonder if there's something equally strange in the depths. Sadly, we shall never know, for soon after completing their staircase into the depths, the dwarven civilization vanished. So, I remove their beads, leaving their chambers empty. Their treasure disappears, but the Doom weapon and the Orb of Dwarf remain for future occupants of the dungeon to discover. And that's the Age of Civilization. The game, as it currently stands, includes a few other civilizations. There's a demon civilization. There is a wizard or a magician civilization. And there is a deep elf civilization, which is kind of like the drow. Okay, so now those stay. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole map for the next era. So, How to Host a Dungeon is, it's a weird game with a lot of rules and random tables and weird little descriptions of things, and sometimes when you're playing it, you forget something. And I forgot something during this game. I did not find out what was on the surface of this world, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to roll to find out. Because the dwarves, paranoid about the surface, never bothered to explore it. It remained a mystery. The sky alone terrified them enough that they did not find out what it was like. But now we're going to find out what it was like. So there is a terrestrial biome filling most of the surface. A biome is just anywhere where there is plant life, basically. So I'm just going to make a vast pine forest, like so. An uninhabited wilderness. But in this wilderness, there are 1d6 bead-sized pockets of ore. So, let's see. There are 4 pockets of ore. How am I going to draw these? Let's take this silver pen, and we'll just do them as kind of like rock outcroppings, like this. If the dwarves had explored further, they would have discovered these strange metallic pillars made of useful metal littered across the surface. Their purpose is unknown. What message they carry has never been determined. ladies and gentlemen, the Age of Monsters. Okay, remember how my own game works. So, I have here a deck of monsters. I'm going to do my best to shuffle this. I think in the final version of the game, these cards will be smaller and easier to handle. But for now, they're just nice and big, because that makes it easier for me to design and take notes on them and all that sort of thing. See if we can get one good riffle shuffle here. Age of Monsters. I'm just going to refresh my memory of how this all starts. We start with 3 monsters, so drawn at random. Into this empty world come an ogre mage, a dragon, and for the 3rd monster, I'm just going to go through this and find a monster I haven't used before, because I have several new monsters in the game. And I want to try one of the new ones. Apparently they're all the Sturges. So, the Ogre Mage, now I'm just going to roll randomly to see where these monsters arrive in the world. The Ogre Mage comes in on this level, the empty caves near the Doom Weapon. So we'll use a red bead to represent him, and he has a treasure. Let's use this blue pen for labeling. The Ogre Mage's lair. Now the Ogre Mage does something. Each monster has a life cycle which describes the things that they do in a turn. So the Ogre Mage always hunts, but he has no neighbors to hunt for now. So I think he's going to prepare magic. I use these gold beads to represent magical preparations and other advantages. That will just give him an advantage in the future if he needs to do something interacting with some other monster. So now the Sturges. The Sturges, where is my D8? The Sturges come in the ancient lake. They have no treasure. They simply inhabit this cavern. Sturges have no one to fight, so they explore. So the Sturges, I'm just actually going to spread these out to show that they have explored this whole area. And finally, the dragon. The dragon comes in on level 2, the lava lakes. Let's make him orange. And he comes in with a great treasure. Okay, so that's the setup for the Monster Age. Now we will play several turns. Yeah, Adrian, thank you for joining the stream. That's a good idea. It hadn't occurred to me, but that would make it much easier to find the monsters you want. And also, then, if it was easier to find the monsters, you could have special rules for certain monsters to appear if certain things happen. Yeah, that's cool. I'm going to make a note of that. Or, even if it's not a rule, it's a good suggestion to offer to people playing this game to make it easier to manage all the different bits and pieces. Okay, a giant pike. This map has a lot of big predators on it, so we'll see how that happens. So, the giant pike, let's see. When a giant pike spawns, place it in the nearest water area or create a water-filled cavern. So there is only one water area here, so that's where he's going to appear. We're going to use green. He has immediately arrived in an area inhabited by other monsters, so they actually immediately fight. So when monsters fight, it's a straight-up dice-off. In some situations, one of the monsters can have an advantage, but in this situation, it's totally even. We'll use red always for the attacker, which will be the pike because he's invading the Sturge territory, and blue for the defender. So it's a tie, but on a tie, the attacker wins. So the giant pike consumes a Sturge, and the other one flees to set up a lair somewhere else. So the Sturges moved out to these caverns. And now the giant pike takes his turn. Giant pikes always hunt, but he already drove out the Sturges, so he has no one to hunt. He cannot move to a new area, so he will wait here until someone comes along. Now we shuffle the rest of the monsters and they take their turns in random order. The Ogre Mage. Having no one to hunt, he will scout. So scouting basically means that the monster learns more about the dungeon around them. So I'm actually going to use, I'm just going to make a little red mark to show that his territory has basically expanded. The dragon. If dragons have neighbors that have stolen treasures from them, they will fight those neighbors always. But this dragon is kind of alone in his cave. So he has no neighbors, so he will prepare. This could be magic spells. It could be traps. It could just be lying in wait, thinking of all the ways that he could deal with pesky adventurers if they show up. Also, whenever a dragon has no actions for the turn, we roll a d6, and on a 6, he matures and becomes more powerful, so we'll add a bead to him. Finally, the Sturges. Sturges, the pike is too powerful for them to fight, so the pike is what we call an alpha predator, which is a very powerful monster. The Sturges are denizens, which are weaker monsters. They're not able to fight, so they will explore looking for prey. So I'm just going to move this to represent their expanding territory, and I'm going to roll for it randomly. Up is 1, 2, 3, down is 4, 5, 6. They explore deeper into the dungeon. And so the game continues. Sometimes it goes a little slow like this, of monsters that are not interacting, and then sometimes things are full of fights and monsters dying and so on and so forth. Yeah, Adrian, exploring and scouting are slightly different. Exploring, they explore in one direction for a longer distance. So exploring is good for monsters that need to find something, like dwarves explore, because they do much better if they have something to mine. So they explore until they find something to mine, and then they mine it. Scouting, they expand a small distance in every direction, which is good for monsters that have a good power base or who can replenish their numbers, like goblins, who are always increasing their population. They scout so that they simply fill a bigger and bigger area. And our new monster is another alpha predator, a purple worm. So where does this purple worm arrive? The purple worm arrives on level 6. So let's do this. We're going to draw a tunnel in here where this purple worm, which unfortunately is yellow, tunnels up from the depths. Purple worms are nomadic. They're always moving around. So the first thing the purple worm does is move in search of food. So he will move, and a finger is sort of the default distance, approximately. He will move towards the sturges, who could be a source of food. And I'm just going to draw some holes in these constructions as the worm tunnels his way through them. The Ogre Mage is going to continue to scout. Just leave his mark on the caves as he goes. A slow start to the Ogre Mage. The Sturge. They're going to continue to explore, I guess. 1, 2, 3 upwards, 4, 5, 6 downwards. This time they go up. So they've already explored this area, so we'll explore them a little further up there. The dragon has nothing to do except for to prepare more magic and see if he grows. He does not. And finally, the giant pike. Giant pikes always hunt, but this pike has no one to hunt. So he needs to explore. And I hear... Sorry, my phone is ringing, and I'm gonna check really quick and make sure that's not anything of importance. I'll be right back. Okay, that was quick. It was a scam caller. So, when a pike doesn't have anything to eat, he explores. Now, he's an aquatic creature, but one of the things that we can do in this game is if he explores, we can create an underground waterway for him. Actually, and this totally works on this map because the dwarves created this aqueduct, right? So I'm just going to say this adds a waterway so he can explore down to here. So now he's haunting these old dwarven ruins, striking out from the pipes. He's a pike. Ooh, okay. That hurts. Okay, I'm going to try and pick up the pace here and get through a few more monsters since it's already 11 o'clock. Okay, new monster arrives. A vampire. Let's get something that's not an alpha predator here. I want to mix this up a little. Okay. This is a new one. This is a city. The city of Saltbury. The city of Saltbury always spawns on the surface because it's a surface creature, but that should also be explicitly called out in the rules, so I'll make a note of it to add that to the card. So, how do these guys work? I've never had these guys show up before. So they arrive with a population of 3 and 1 treasure. We'll just pick a spot for them to live on the surface. Let's find a good color for them. Let's build a city for them here in this forest. Okay, there we go. Saltbury. So, what does the city of Saltbury do? They can trade, they can build, they can fight, they can scout. Well, yeah, they can build something. They have one treasure, so they actually spend their treasure to build some city walls. So I've already got some walls there, but I'm going to add some more towers. And that will give them immunity to monsters that have the hunt ability. Hunt is an ability of large monsters like dragons and giant pikes to remove the population of denizens. So sturges. So the sturges finally have something that they can hunt. Well, I mean, Saltbury has walls, so maybe that makes them immune to sturges, but they're going to explore in this direction to get closer to the human city in hopes of finding some prey. The giant pike. The purple worm is too powerful for the giant pike to hunt, but he can fight it. Giant pikes are pretty powerful fighters, so this is going to be a straight up roll. Pike is the red die, but he fails. So he is killed, swallowed by the purple worm. Poor Pike. We hardly knew ye. The dragon has not much to do right now. He will continue to prepare and grow. He is a big dragon. The purple worm, they always move towards food, so let's send him up in that direction. Creating new tunnels as he goes. And the ogre mage, who will continue to expand his domain. Still a pretty placid world going on down here. Yes, Thansies or Thanases, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name. Special cards for adventuring parties that give them interactions with monsters, like an evil adventure party aligning with evil monsters. You are reading my mind. I do have rules for this. They're not yet ready for play, unfortunately, but yeah. So adventuring parties, yes. Wandering through the monsters, wandering through the dungeon, bashing monsters on the head, taking their treasure. Evil parties that can align with evil monsters, yes, totally. Thief adventurers who can steal, cleric adventurers who are powerful against undead, yeah, that's all in my head, and I can't wait to get it working so I can do it on one of these streams. Maybe I might have it in 2 weeks when I stream again, but maybe I'll post a preview somewhere and people can kind of critique it and give me some more ideas. Morlons, okay. The Morlons appear on the surface, so where they appear kind of matters. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in broad terms. They appear in the eastern wastelands. Let's see, do I have a color I haven't used yet? Actually, I do. I have blue. Utterly silent, the Morlons pursue mysterious goals in gloomy caverns far below the earth. Well, these are apparently surface Morlons, at least to start with. Since Morlons are just described as a subterranean species, I'm going to draw a couple of caves here, just shallow burrows for them to live in. So, what do Morlons do? They always explore. So the Morlons will explore this way, which I think will allow them to come into contact with the city of Saltbury. If they are near a source of magma, they can build some interesting stuff, but they have not yet found the magma since it's under the earth, but maybe they will if they continue to explore. And that's all they do for now. Yeah, my idea for adventuring parties is to actually have like 3 or 4 small cards that represent the party. So the card that's on top is the leader, and their special power is active at any given time. And then as the party takes casualties, you remove cards until all the cards are gone, or the party exits the dungeon with some treasure. Yeah, that's a good point. The Morlons are kind of boring in a dungeon that doesn't have any treasure in it. That's one of the reasons I added the Explorer, because then they bump into other monsters and interact with them more, but they are still a little bit not an interesting monster in a dungeon with no magma. So that's something I may think about trying to fix. Like maybe if they get enough treasure, they can build something that lets them act as though they had access to magma or something. I don't know. I'm still thinking about that, but that is definitely a good point. The city of Saltbury. Always ally with a group we have not fought with before. So they will attempt to ally with the Morlons. I'm going to check my rules, because I haven't played this in a little while, about how allying works. Right, so we roll off. Saltbury gets the red die because they're the attackers here. They're initiating this attempt to ally, but it fails. The Morlons are not interested in an alliance at this time. So they can, however, still try to fight or trade with the Morlons. So I'm going to try and trade. Trade. The active monster approaches the other group with an offer of trade. If successful, both groups get something, but if they fail, then the Morlons can get one of Saltbury's treasures. But Saltbury doesn't have any treasures, which is the loophole with trade, that you can offer trade even if you're poor, and if you fail, there's no downside. The dragon. The dragon continues to grow. Purple worm. I think he's just following those sturges. Let's the ogre mage. So the purple worm just tunneled right through an area that the ogre mage has scouted, so the ogre mage can interact with the purple worm. Let's see if he has anything. So he can recruit humanoids, ally with giants, extort from lawful groups. If there are no denizens nearby, he can trade with alpha predators, but the purple worm has nothing to offer him, so I think he's going to sit pat. And the sturge. They're going to continue to run away from the purple worm, which puts them in the forest near Saltbury. They can now fight. They will fight the people of the city. So that's a tie. However, we noted earlier that the city of Saltbury built the city walls, which is fortification, so they get +1. So they drive off the sturges, and the sturges are destroyed. All right, in the interest of play testing and speeding things up, I'm going to add 2 monster groups this time, because I can. I would love to add the Medusa, but as you can see, there are no rules for them yet. The Order of Starhelm. Starhelm is an ancient order of warriors who train day and night in the ways of undead slaying. When the order spawns, if there are undead in the dungeon, draw a random undead monster and spawn them in a random location. Okay, so first, the Order of Starhelm. They will appear in level 5. So the Ancient Foundry. The Order of Starhelm is an order of knights that starts with lots of population, but they tend to get whittled down over time as they fight and hunt undead. Now, we will find the first undead monster in the list. This is a case where having an alphabetic stack and rolling a die would make things a little faster. A vampire. A vampire will spawn on level 3. So, don't think it makes that much sense for a vampire to spawn in the lava lake. So, in a previously hidden chamber, attached to the ancient spiral staircase, a vampire. And you can totally add rooms when monsters appear. I mean, it's your map when you play this game. You alter it the way you think makes the most sense. The vampire's rich. If there's a tomb near where the vampire spawns, they spawn in the tomb, but there is none. So, if there is no tomb, the space they get gets an X, which means that it is a tomb. And some monsters get bonuses from tombs or interact with them in particular ways. So, the first thing the vampire does is hunt for denizens who have blood. There is no one near him, though the order could be a victim if he gets that far. So he can bribe alpha predators. How do you bribe a purple worm? With offers of food and large gems? I'm not sure, but we're going to find out. He fails to bribe the purple worm, so the purple worm takes some of his treasure. Oh yeah, I'm just reading the chat. Yeah, Adrian, create magma if some condition is met. That's a good idea, like if they get a bonus marker or enough treasure or something. Yeah. Yes, they are aliens, so as aliens they might have a way of doing that. Yeah. I like those ideas. Thanks, guys. I'm going to... Where's my Morlun card? I'm going to make a note of some of that. Yeah, definitely want to make it a thing that doesn't automatically happen, because once Morlons get magma, they can actually become really powerful, but it would be interesting if they had an option in a dungeon with no magma in it. Yeah, and less population making them weaker. I like that. Good thinking. The purple worm. So, the purple worm seeks food. Well... order is a potential food source. Now he relocates first and then he hunts, so he can in fact eat a member of the order. The dragon. Someone better come into this dragon's chamber soon. Or, wow, that is a big dragon. He may just destroy the world if he ever gets out. The Morlons. Always explore. Well, they've explored this way and they've hit Saltbury, so I don't think they can explore past that. So I'm going to actually allow them to explore down and discover the magma. In fact, let's just draw a little cave entrance here on the edge of the vast magma lake. It is Christmas in Morlun time. So if near a source of magma, build a magma refinery. They can do that immediately. Let's use this color for the magma refinery. All right. I don't know what a magma refinery should look like, but instead of making it look like machinery, I'm going to make this kind of alien monolith thing half sunk in the magma. Yeah. And that is their last action for the turn. So next turn they can start exploiting that magma. The Ogre Mage. So continues to scout At this point, I think he can reasonably know about the presence of the vampire and the order whose territories should overlap with his, so he can do something. I think he's going to try and recruit. He is going to try and bribe, charm, or otherwise get one of the members of the order to become his minion. He rolls a 1. His bonus counter can be used to give him +1 to win that conflict. So he now has a knight in thrall and is more powerful than he was before. And finally, the city. They always look for allies, so they will attempt to ally with the Morlons again. And they fail. A rule I forgot last time is that anytime that Morlons win a conflict, their population increases. And that's the turn. Now let's get a new monster. The Nomads. The Nomads are a wandering underground trade caravan. They are appearing on level 5. So I'm going to create an underground trade route coming into the world at the shores of the ancient lake. Now the rules don't limit where they come in, so I'm actually going to have them come into these old dwarven ruins where there are people for them to interact with, because that's what they're all about. So they always relocate near a monster group they have not traded yet, so this is relatively close to the order. If there's someone to trade with, +1 to the roll. So actually, I'm going to have them trade with the purple worm, because the purple worm has treasure. So a tie again, but Nomads always get +1 to trade rolls because that's their deal. So let's read trade. If successful, each group may gain treasure or bonus markers their choice. So they're all about money. The purple worm is all about preparations. I'm trying to imagine what this looks like. Like the Nomads approach this purple worm, which everyone thinks of as a ferocious monster that can't be reasoned with, and they present it with, I don't know, like magical purple worm armor or something that makes it more powerful, or they put a blessing on it or something, but whatever the case, more treasure is generated. Yeah, giving the dragon something to build with bonus markers would be interesting. Or even if reaching a certain number of bonus markers maybe triggers the end game, like the Age of Villainy, and the dragon becomes like rampages on the world or something. That would totally make sense. Order of Starhelm. Okay. Always hunt undead. If there are no undead at our current location, relocate. So they climb the spiral staircase, for they know a vampire dwells here somewhere. This is the thing about the order that is interesting. They hunt first, then they move, which means they are always vulnerable to the undead they're hunting, because they have to move there, and then the next turn they get to hunt. So if the vampire gets a turn before they move again, this may go badly for them. I've actually played a game in which there was an epic battle between a powerful order and a powerful vampire that ranged all over the map. It was one of the most interesting games of how to host a dungeon I've ever played. And now it is the vampire's turn. Well, the first thing the vampire does is hunt, which means in the night, the order is ambushed. and a desiccated corpse is left behind. Then, if in danger of being driven out by a strong monster or group, the vampire may relocate. I don't think he will. I think he's actually pretty cozy where he is. So, I think he will prepare. He will prepare for his inevitable confrontation with the Order. That could go well or badly for him. The purple worm. Always relocate near food. I think he does not need to relocate because the nomads are right there. So he will hunt nomads, because making a trade agreement is no guarantee of safety. There is a move called Ally, which does give safety. The Morlons always explore, so I think they explore that lava channel, see where it goes. If near a source of magma, build a magma refinery. If a magma refinery has been built, you may harvest magma, which means essentially they turn it into treasure. They already have one treasure, so let's have them start building a vault to save it. And in this case, I imagine treasure is like maybe power, like they're storing up magical energy for some future plot. The Ogre Mage, what does he want to do? The Order has no treasure for him to extort, so I think he's going to actually continue his plan of enthralling members of the Order, and he succeeds. Yeah, the Order were just fodder in this game. Poor guys. Maybe an adventuring party could be sent into the dungeon to find out what became of them. A trail of corpses leading to a dangerous ogre mage, a cunning vampire, and heaps of treasure. The city of Saltbury. One thing I'm noticing is that the city of Saltbury doesn't have very many good ways to get treasure. Maybe that's okay. They don't have to be rich. They can trade, but I'm going to make a note that might consider letting them mine or something. Because once they get treasure, they can expand their city, which is cool. So, allying with the Morlons hasn't worked very good. I think they're going to scout, actually. So, they discover the Dwarven gates and the wilderness that lie on the edges of their forest realm. Yeah, see, if they could mine, they could gather this ore that's on the surface and use it to expand their city, which would be pretty cool. The camera's getting a little out of adjustment there. This city cannot extort. There is another city which does have extorting powers. This city is about trade and building. The problem is that trade is not really a terribly efficient way of getting money. It's very hit or miss. So I think probably I'll let them mine, because what city wouldn't exploit, pieces of ore that are sitting basically right on the surface. And the dragon. The dragon, I'm not even going to continue to add tokens. I'm just going to roll for growth. Oh, wow. Boy. What are my, let me take a look at my villain rules. I don't really have a good villain for the dragon to become at this point, because I have rules for an empire and a horde. The one that I'm currently calling the chieftain is where an alpha predator becomes the most powerful monster on the map and then starts subjugating the rest. It would actually be really cool to have just a rampaging monster villain too, because that would be totally ideal for this situation. I'm going to note, this is why I love playing this on stream, because this is where the best ideas come from. Yeah, using surface biomes would also make a lot of sense for the city, like chop down trees and build houses and increase your population. That would be a pretty cool cycle. if not for this city, which is supposed to be the trade city, maybe for another city. Or maybe give them a special rule where they always get treasure when they trade, or something like that. Yeah, I've got 3 cities, and I think they all need a little bit of tweaking. So it is 11:17. I have to. That's Pacific Standard Time. I do have to quit this stream by noon today, a short one. So maybe I'm wondering if I should trigger into a Age of Villainy and just kind of see how this works. And I think what I'm going to do, just to kind of jump this, because this is also a chance to playtest this, is let's assume the Morlons end up being really successful, because they're pretty well set up, and get up to 6 treasure, which would be a situation that could trigger the Age of Villainy. And I'm even going to give them one more population and say, okay, these have been very successful Morlons. And let's find out how this goes. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so the Empire. At a certain stage in the game, one of the monster groups becomes powerful enough to trigger the Age of Villainy, which is when one monster group sort of rises up and tries to destroy or take over or dominate the world in some way. And that's where we are now. So the Empire has ascended to villainy. If the Empire is your villain, the monster that has the most treasure or population may become the Empire, your choice. We're going to choose the Morlons. We're now the Morlon Empire. If the Empire does not have the good or evil tag, give it one of those now. If it does not have the lawful or chaotic tag, give it one of those now. So let's see. Let's take a look at the Morlons card. The Morlons are alien builders. So I am, and I think probably in the game I'll have like a little note sheet or maybe some little tokens to mark what you do, but I'm just going to note on here for these guys. They're going to be lawful because I think the Morlons seem pretty lawful. And why not? Let's make them evil. So the lawful evil Morlons. It can never be both good and evil. It can never be both chaotic and lawful. Right. We build the capital. This is a free construction that doesn't do anything special, but it should look cool. So let's find a good color for Morlon. Let's use this dark blue. The Morlon capital. The Morlons rise to the surface. And they build this weird alien city. I hope that's sufficient. And indeed, they move some of their population into it. The alien apotheosis has arrived. World, prepare. So, let's see. How does this... how a villainy works. When the Morlon turn comes up in the turn order, the Morlons get a bunch of extra things they can do, and then at the end of the turn they get one more special move each turn. So let's see how this goes. First, the vampire. Well, he has no one to hunt. He has no one to recruit. I guess he's going to try and bribe that purple worm. Unsuccessfully, as it turns out. That's a really rich purple worm. The purple worm, he's going to eat a nomad. Purple worms don't gather the treasure of the monsters they kill, so actually the treasure just stays there. But it is an interesting question. What kind of a alpha villain would a purple worm become? Maybe a rampaging Caillou villain of some sort. I don't know. Morlons. So Morlons always explore, so I'm going to have them continue their exploration down to these tunnels where the Ogre Mage lives. Then they always ally with a group that they share a tag with. Well, let's take a look at the city of Saltbury. The city of Saltbury is lawful, so the Morlons can attempt to ally with them. They are unsuccessful. If the Empire allies with a group, then the next turn they can attempt to just take them over and incorporate them into the Empire. Then the Empire always, it should be an always there, gets to build something on their build list. So what are we going to build? I think they're going to build a wall in case, a great wall in fact, around their realm in case the city decides to try and fight them. That will give them an advantage. Yeah, a good villain, definitely. You could have a good empire conquering the world, and I think that would be interesting. I'm not quite sure how that would interact with adventurers, if you would always have evil adventurers when you have a good empire, or not. Yeah, becoming a god is actually a pretty interesting goal for an alpha predator, too. Love these ideas. Okay, the nomads are already wiped out. Oh, sorry. I don't take their treasure away. It stays there. The order has also been wiped out. The dragon just keeps on growing. The unstoppable dragon. If the Morlons ever tunnel in there and try and get access to that treasure, it's going to go really, really, really badly for them. Saltbury always needs someone to trade with. Well, they found their way to these dungeons, so they're going to try and trade with the vampire, because trading with the Morlons is kind of a bad show. Hey! So, they will generate a treasure, and so will the vampire. Now, with that treasure, they can try and build something. Sure, they will build a necropolis. They actually lose a population when they do that. I'm going to draw some mausoleums here. Interesting that they trade with the vampire and soon after have to build a necropolis. Interesting that, huh? But what that does is it actually gives them another treasure, so next turn they can build something hopefully better. And the Ogre Mage. He's going to try and recruit some Morlons. Why not? It's been working for him. And he succeeds. Building a little army of his own there. And then we add a monster, wolves. Interesting. The wolves spawn on level 2. So that means that they're... So wolves, interesting thing. When they spawn, they're the kind of monster they are. So if they spawn near lava, they're hellhounds. If they spawn near a nexus, they're blink dogs. If they spawn near water, they're a Mayan legendary monster that is basically an aquatic dog. So I'm going to have them spawn here. They come out as hellhounds, but they immediately come into conflict with the dragon, which... Let's see how it goes. So the dragon clearly wins. A bonus token is consumed because when you win a conflict, you use a bonus token, which means a wolf dies and the rest are driven out. And I think what they're going to do is they need a place to go. So I'm going to create an underground lava channel. The hellhounds are now living in the Morlons' magma lake. Now things are starting to get interesting. Now they take their turn. Hellhounds are nomadic. They always move. So we'll just move them to the other end of the lava lake for now. then they hunt denizens, so they can totally hunt Morlons. So suddenly the Empire's dealings are disrupted by a outbreak of hellhounds in the Magna refinery. And when the Morlons' turn comes around, we'll see what kind of tools their Empire build list gives them to deal with that. So how the Empire generally works is they start with a bunch of treasure, and there are a bunch of things that they can build to help them with difficult situations, which gives them an advantage. And if they can turn that into getting enough groups annexed into their power, they win the game. If not, well, they don't. Saltbury. Saltbury has more money. They're going to spend it. This is not on the build list, but it totally should be. They spend 2 to build a trade complex. I'm just going to build like a tall tower to attract people to their city. That gives them +1 trade. I'll even make a note of that on the map. They also get to ally with somebody again. I think they're going to try and ally with the Morlons. Well, that's risky, but it will prevent them being attacked. And they do, yes, they succeed because a tie, the defender wins. So there's now an alliance between the Morlons. Now, the Morlons always ally with a group I share a tag with. The wolves are chaotic, I believe. Actually, they're not. They're just animals. So, no, they're evil. The wolves are evil because they spawned on magma and they're hellhounds, which gives them the evil tag. So the Morlons can actually forge an alliance with the hellhounds. Hey, you killed some of us, but we think you're powerful and you'd be better as allies. And they succeed. So the Morlons now have 2 allies, which is going to help them a lot at the end of the turn. Now, they may attempt to annex a group they're allied with. This is another role. If it succeeds, the group that they annexed becomes part of the Morlon Empire. And they're going to annex the hounds because those are a threat to them. On a tie, they win. So the hellhounds are now a part of the Morlon Empire. The vampire. I really think it might be interesting if he had something more interesting to do with alpha predators, but he's just going to try and bribe the purple worm. Successfully, as it turns out. This purple worm is just growing fat here on offerings from lesser beings. He could go hunt hellhounds. The dragon? Well, let's see. The dragon has a connection now with the Empire. Is there anything... He did interact with a group the last turn, so now he can try and extort humanoids, rout alpha predators, or hunt. I'm going to have him extort. Now that he's found the Empire, he demands tribute from them. Successfully, as it turns out. Ho, ho, ho. The Ogre Mage. What's he got to do? I think he's going to prepare, actually. Things are getting a little dicey down here in the dungeon with this Empire running around. Yeah, increasing the frequency of evil parties when you have a good villain is probably a good idea. I'll have to try it out a few times and see. And also having a good adventurers ally with the good Empire. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of interesting things to do there, and I'm not quite sure what they are. I mean, it's like How to Host a Dungeon meets Lords of Waterdeep or something. So the wolves, they always relocate. They're not going to mess with the dragon, so I think they're going to come into Ogre Mage territory. They cannot hunt the Ogre Mage because he is an alpha predator who is too powerful for them to hunt. So they're just going to increase their numbers, actually. They're going to breed. And the purple worm. I think it's time for the purple worm to move in search of other prey. wolves, in fact. And when purple worms move, they leave their treasure behind. They just don't care enough about treasure to carry it with them, or they can't carry it. And we spawn a new monster. A wizard. A wizard appears deep in the dungeon on level 7 in the ancient dwarven ruins. What does he do? First he explores. We'll have him explore this way and discover those gems that the dwarves never exploited. Then he may recruit, fight, build. Let's build a laboratory. Let's use purple. When the wizard builds a laboratory, he gets another token. Perhaps a golem or something. Oh, then at the end of the turn, the Empire taxes. Each group that has been annexed transfers 1 or generates 1 treasure for the Empire. So the Hellhounds generate wealth for the Empire. Purple worm. Let's change that to, say, purple, so we don't get confused. Hunts. Hellhounds. The wizard explores further. I think he's going to explore in this direction, because wizards actually, this wizard anyway, can't do anything with gems, but he can do something with ore if he reaches it. The city. Make alliances. Let's make an alliance with the dragon. Seems wise. Successful. No. The dragon can spend a bonus token to win, so unsuccessful. The dragon says, no, I don't think so. They have nothing they can build. Guess they can fight. Let's do it. They're going to fight the Morlons. Successful. The Empire has problems. But let's see what they can do about it. So first of all, they gather allies. They're going to ally with Saltbury. It doesn't have to be a friendly alliance. It could be, you know, like a tough negotiation, a temporary ceasefire, so they can put other plans into motion. But they do not succeed. So they can fight. They can build. They could. What alignment is the dragon? It is neither good nor evil. What can they build? They're going to build. They're going to build a ghetto to become draconic. So they're lawful, evil, draconic. So that they can potentially ally with the dragon on a future turn. How does this look, like, fictionally? Like, how does this make any sense? The way I see it, I think they have imported kobolds and set up like a kobold enclave inside of the Empire, and to use the kobolds to negotiate with the dragon to set up a mutually beneficial relationship. It's the only thing I can come up with on short notice. Yeah, having the dragon's alignment be random makes a lot of sense. The only reason I didn't is because it's a bit of a pain to track that, since this card is always being picked up and shuffled again. You don't want to write on the card, because in the next game it would have a different alignment. So yeah, or there could be a chromatic dragon card and a metallic dragon card. then you would have a good and an evil dragon. I want more creatures to have lawful, chaotic, good, and evil alignments because it makes the Empire work better. That's kind of one of the difficulties with the Empire, is that a lot of things are not good or evil. Chromatic versus metallic. That's definitely an idea to consider. I'm totally giving you guys credit, by the way, as playtesters for all these great ideas. If you want to email me your real names, I will credit you that way. Otherwise, I'll use your Twitch handles. Yeah, right. The good dragon and the evil dragon would have different actions. Yeah, totally. Like, the good dragon could ally with or recruit good cities, or like have a special move to interact with good adventurers, whereas the evil one would definitely have, you know, a lot of extorting. Yeah, that is that's a cool idea. I recently watched, I don't know if you know Adam Coble, but he has a stream where he's running Dragon Heist, D&D 5th edition adventure, and they had an adventure where they interacted with a bronze dragon that had taken up residence in the harbor, and the bronze dragon was good, you know, but still really liked it when sailors freaked out and threw treasure overboard because they saw a dragon. So, you know, he wasn't evil, but he was not behaving the best, and they had to sort of negotiate with it. It was a pretty cool, oh, you're already a patron. Awesome. Well, thank you for your support. It's really awesome to be able to basically take my Fridays off work and work on how to host a dungeon. That's what I've been able to do, and the Patreon definitely helps with that. Helps me be able to pay the bills while working less. So thank you so much for that. The vampire is allowed to relocate, and he can't hunt these guys because they have a city wall which prevents hunting. I wonder if he can go somewhere that would give him some more interesting options. I think he is going to relocate deeper into the dungeon. Maybe he can get over here and start preying on this empire he's been hearing about. The Ogre Mage, he's a hunter. He hasn't done this yet, but he's just going to kill some wolves. The Dragon. Let's see, extorting has worked pretty good, so let's keep it up. A close one, but more treasure. I think there's no reason, like if the dragon gets rich enough, you could have two villains on the map at the same time. It would be pretty chaotic to try and run, but nevertheless, it could be fun. So the wolves always relocate. Let's send them down here to pick up some of this loose treasure. Why not? Add it to the Empire. And then at the end of the turn, the Empire gets money from its minions. All right, it's 11:40, so in the interest of time, I'm not going to add any more groups. I think probably there's two more turns maybe in this, and then I'll probably have to wrap it up. But this has been a great playtest. I've learned a ton about the game. Joshua Wrigley, you're asking what we're talking about. If we're talking about the Patreon, and this is actually a good time for me to mention this, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Tony Dowler. That funds the creation of this game, and for me to work 4 days a week instead of 5 and work on this and my other artworks. If you become a patron, you get access to these rules, frequent updates, my library of old artwork and books and other materials, and yes, already an owner of the game, awesome. And if you back me at the $5 level, you will get limited edition art postcards from me with my original artwork in print form on it, and occasionally physical rewards too, depending on the level you're at. So, and if you can't back me on Patreon, That's fine too. Stop by and read some of the posts because you'll find old drafts of this second edition rules for the game and other cool stuff. All right, so let's pick up the pace. Okay, the dragon. Let's keep extorting. Let's keep pressure on the Morlons. It failed. Keep pressure going on the Morlon Empire and see if we can bring it down. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for it. The city of Saltbury is going to fight. They're going to fight the Empire. That is a failure. Saltbury, their expedition is routed. They take losses. The wolves continue to wander. More treasure. Oh, there's a monster down here. There's a vampire. Okay. So, let's wander down here, and they find the Orb of the Dwarves, which is a treasure. It counts as a white bead. It just has a special name. So, it is now in the hands of the Empire. The Ogre Mage. He can hunt. He can hunt Morlons. Their empire is about to collapse. Probably a good rule for the Empire is that when they get hunted, casualties should come from their allies first. Yeah, that is not a rule, but it probably should be. Because otherwise it does make the Empire a little bit fragile. The purple worm. He could actually finish them off right now, but I won't. I'll move him down here and take a wolf. The wizard. He explores to the end of the mines and finds that there is indeed still gold to be found, and begins mining it out to fund his own plans. So the wizard, if he gets enough treasure, he can build a phylactery, which then makes him into an alpha villain. The Morlon Empire. Things are getting tough. We need to ally with Saltbury so we can incorporate them into our empire. They successfully ally. Now they can try and annex them. On a tie they succeed, so Saltbury is now part of the Morlon Empire. And the vampire. Hunt, ally, recruit, bribe, prepare. I guess he's going to try and recruit hellhounds into his service. They betray the Empire and side with the vampire, who's now quite wealthy. And at the end of the turn, Saltbury generates wealth for the Morlons. The Morlons, this is a weak move, but things are desperate. They're going to build slums. And slums allow them to increase their population, which gives them a little bit more buffer against being destroyed. All right. Last turn of the game. Yeah, special treasures giving special actions. That is a great idea. Like, maybe this could be represented by just a small card that has a special power on it, for example. Yeah. This is starting to, the number of components this game creates is starting to get a little out of control, but I don't really mind that. Maybe, you know, like special treasures and supplements that have a lot of fiddly pieces could be optional add-ons or something, so you don't have to, you know, have a big, huge table to play this simple version of the game. Yeah, I'm going to publish the Age of Villainy rules on Patreon. I haven't had enough time because work has been really busy, but I think tomorrow I might have a little bit of time to post a PDF of what they look like. They seem to be working pretty decently. I'm happy with them. All right. The vampire. Just doesn't seem to have terribly much to do. I want him to be able to steal or extort or something to get more treasure. Maybe I'll consider that for a future draft. For now, I guess he's just going to... Actually, he can scout and take that treasure. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so he is now actually rich enough to become an alpha, and an alpha become a villain himself. I'm not so sure about having two villains at the same time, so I'm not going to try that today, but that's definitely something for the future. Hunt, keep the pressure on the Empire. The Morlons. They're going to try and ally with the dragon. They successfully forge an alliance with the dragon, and then they fail to incorporate into the Empire. They fail massively. The dragon laughs in their face. Join your empire? Are you joking? You will join me as my dinner. Something I forgot. The wizard has a special rule. When he exploits, he doesn't get treasure. He gets preparation tokens. So he's going to continue to mine out the old dwarven Orvain and add more tokens so that he can eventually build a factory and achieve immortality. So Saltbury, what can they do that would be of use to the Morlon Empire? Guess they can trade with the dragon and see if they can get a gold token out of it. So we send our human emissaries to trade with you, O great dragon. The dragon says, I have a bonus token. I laugh at your trade proposal. The wolves are dead. The purple worm. I think he's going to eat the last Morlon. So a purple worm surfaces in the middle of the Morlon city. The Morlon Empire collapses, and the dragon laughs until the end of days. And that has been How to Host a Dungeon. Oh, and I'm going to read stuff people have been posting in the chat because there are more villains versus villains, two villains, yeah. Uneasy alliance between villains, yep. Yeah, two civilizations or a civilization and a villain is also an interesting possibility. Rebels against the main villain, yeah. Wow, there's so many different ideas. Yeah, thank you all. That's really awesome hearing your take on this, because it inspires me to keep working on it, that other people are getting ideas too, and I will definitely do my best to use some of these. All right, well, I'm going to start cleaning up. Thank you so much for joining How to Host a Dungeon. I'm going to try and do this again on Friday morning in 2 weeks, so if you can join that. I'll also post a video of this on YouTube probably sometime this weekend. So thank you so much. Follow me on Twitter at Tony Dollar, the same on Instagram, etc. Cool. Have a good weekend.